This 3-minute leg position before bed is why some seniors sleep all night. A subtle yet significant alteration occurs within the circulatory system as individuals transition into their late 50s and early 60s, a change that largely goes unaddressed in common discourse. What once was an efficient return of blood from the legs to the heart begins to experience a gradual pooling. This isn't a sudden or dramatic onset, nor is it something readily detected during a standard medical examination. Instead, it's a slow, silent accumulation that manifests night after night, settling in the calves and feet, contributing to the frustrating sensation of an unsettled body that resists the onset of sleep. Researchers who dedicate their work to the study of aging and sleep have indeed quantified this phenomenon. The statistics are far from negligible. Adults over the age of 60 spend an astonishingly reduced amount of time, up to 40% less, in deep, restorative sleep compared to their 45-year-old selves. The most frequently overlooked culprit behind this decline is not the commonly cited factors such as stress, excessive screen time, or even a late afternoon cup of coffee. Rather, the root cause lies in a circulatory issue that originates in the legs well before the head ever makes contact with a pillow. The remarkable aspect of this situation is the existence of a simple, accessible solution. There is a specific posture requiring a mere 3 minutes to adopt, which demands no specialized equipment, no prescriptions, and certainly no prior experience with any form of physical exertion. This posture directly targets and ameliorates the very mechanism responsible for sleep disruption. This is precisely the focus of this discussion. My name is Dr. Beckett, and I am a physician whose specialization lies in cardiovascular health and the intricacies of aging. In my extensive work with individuals over 60, I consistently observe a recurring pattern. The body is not fundamentally flawed. It is simply operating with a circulatory system that has undergone changes, and importantly, this has not been adequately explained in terms of its impact on sleep. My aim today is to elucidate this connection. For a considerable number of people past the age of 60, the night unfolds not as a continuous period of tossing and turning, which would almost be easier to comprehend, but in a far more perplexing manner. Sleep may commence with ease, perhaps even quite rapidly. However, at some point, often around 1 or 2 in the morning, an unseen force seems to pull individuals from their slumber. The room is dark and silent, offering no apparent reason for wakefulness. Yet, a profound sense of unease pervades the body, a low-level restlessness, as if an internal imperative to move is being suppressed. The legs might feel heavy and sluggish, or conversely, strangely alert, as if they never received the signal that it was time to fully relax. Some individuals articulate a feeling of pressure within their calves, while others experience a vague, unidentifiable discomfort. Consequently, they lie awake, their gaze fixed on the ceiling or the passing hours on a clock. By the time morning arrives, the pervasive feeling is not of restful sleep, but of having spent the entire night engaged in laborious effort. This is not, in the conventional understanding of the term, a sleep problem. Instead, it is a circulatory issue masquerading as a sleep disorder. To simplify the underlying physiological process, throughout the day, the force of gravity naturally draws blood downwards into the enditer life, the legs. The body's circulatory system, through a sophisticated interplay involving the calf muscles and a series of valves within the veins, is designed to actively propel this blood back upwards towards the heart. In younger individuals, when the vascular system retains its elasticity and robustness, this process occurs with remarkable efficiency. However, as age progresses beyond 60, these valves tend to weaken, and the walls of the veins lose some of their inherent tone. This diminished capacity leads to an accumulation of blood in the lower extremities as the day wears on. By the evening, a significant volume of fluid can gather in these areas. Upon assuming a supine position in bed, the body endeavors to redistribute this excess fluid. The kidneys respond by increasing their filtration efforts, and the heart rate undergoes subtle adjustments. Rather than settling into the slow, steady rhythm essential for deep sleep, the autonomic nervous system becomes activated by this fluid redistribution process. This activation is precisely what precipitates awakening, not a startling nightmare or underlying anxiety, but rather the body's own physiological response to the demands placed upon a compromised circulatory system. The truly encouraging news, and I wish to emphasize this point with absolute clarity, is that this physiological mechanism exhibits a rapid and positive response to appropriate intervention administered prior to sleep. There is no necessity to undertake invasive procedures to repair the veins, nor is there a requirement for pharmaceutical intervention. The objective is simply to assist the body in effectively draining excess fluid from the legs before retiring for the night. This ensures that the heart and nervous system are not compelled to undertake this taxing redistribution work in the early hours of the morning, when deep sleep should be readily accessible. This is precisely the outcome achieved by the simple practice of elevating the legs against a wall. Before I detail the execution of this technique, allow me to share an illustrative case that may lend greater credence to its efficacy. Consider Gary Hutchkins, a 68-year-old retired electrician from Knoxville, Tennessee. Gary initially presented with complaints of what he described as broken sleep, a phrase he used to articulate the fact that he had not experienced a full night's rest in 4 years. He had exhaustively explored various remedies, from melatonin supplements and mattress changes to adjusting his sleep schedule, all with no lasting improvement. When I inquired about his typical evening routine, he described a scenario common among many men his age. Dinner around 6 p.m., followed by television, with his feet elevated in a recliner, and bedtime typically around 10 p.m. I then posed a question that seemed to perplex him. Had he ever noticed any puffiness in his ankles by evening? His reaction suggested this was an unusually tangential inquiry concerning his sleep woes. He confirmed that, at times, he did observe such swelling. My recommendation to Gary was straightforward. For a period of 2 weeks, he was to implement a single, uncomplicated change and nothing else. This involved spending just 3 minutes before bed with his legs elevated against a wall. He was to refrain from altering any other aspect of his lifestyle. 2 weeks later, Gary returned, and his initial utterance, before even settling into a chair, was an expression of astonishment. "I don't know what you did, but my wife wants to know if she can do it too," he reported, sleeping uninterruptedly until 5 or 6 in the morning, and the persistent, restless, heavy sensation in his legs had all but vanished. The transformation was not in Gary's sleep patterns per se, but in the pre-sleep redistribution of fluid in his legs, a crucial preparatory step before closing his eyes. Now I will guide you through the precise method for performing this beneficial posture. Locate an unobstructed section of wall. Your bedroom wall serves perfectly well for this purpose. Begin by sitting with your side positioned directly adjacent to the wall. Subsequently, gently swing your legs upwards, allowing the backs of your legs to rest against the wall. Your torso should form an approximate 90-degree angle with your legs, with your back resting flat against the floor or your bed. Your arms can be comfortably positioned at your sides or resting upon your abdomen, whichever provides the greatest ease. It is important to note that your legs do not need to be held in a perfectly straight position. If you experience any tightness in your hamstrings, a slight bend in your knees is entirely acceptable. The overarching objective is simply to ensure that your legs are elevated above the level of your heart. Maintain this position for a duration of precisely 3 minutes. During this brief period, gravity assumes the role that your veins have been struggling to fulfill throughout the day. The blood and fluid that have accumulated in your calves and ankles begin to drain back towards your core. Your venous return, which signifies the rate at which blood flows back to your heart, demonstrably improves within the initial 60 to 90 seconds. Concurrently, your heart rate experiences a slight reduction, as the heart, now receiving blood with greater efficiency, is not required to exert itself as intensely. This brings us to the aspect that directly influences sleep: your autonomic nervous system, the intricate control center responsible for transitioning your body between states of alertness and rest. interprets this cardiovascular shift as a signal that it is safe to initiate the process of powering down. The very system that, in the absence of this preparatory measure, would have been occupied with fluid redistribution from your legs during the initial hours of sleep, now receives a body that has already completed this vital task. As a result, deep sleep becomes accessible earlier in the night and remains attainable for a more extended period. Some individuals may experience a mild, pleasant tingling sensation in their legs while in this elevated position. This is entirely normal and is, in fact, an indicator of improving circulation. Should you experience any discomfort in your lower back at any point, you may alleviate it by placing a folded towel or a thin pillow beneath your hips. For those with a history of blood clots, heart failure, or glaucoma, it is advisable to consult with your healthcare provider before commencing this practice. It is highly recommended that you pay close attention to the subtle yet significant changes that unfold in the subsequent days. A discernible sequence of improvements tends to emerge. By the third night, the majority of individuals report a noticeable abatement of the restless, unsettled sensation in their legs at bedtime. While it may not be entirely eradicated, it becomes considerably quieter. Your body begins to approach bedtime in a more favorable circulatory state. By the seventh day, the episodes of waking in the middle of the night often become less frequent or are of shorter duration. Instead of experiencing a prolonged period of wakefulness, perhaps 45 minutes at 2 in the morning, individuals find themselves drifting back to sleep within 10 to 15 minutes. This is because the fluid redistribution that was previously responsible for their awakenings has already been effectively managed before they even lay down. By the conclusion of 2 weeks of consistent practice, the majority of participants describe an experience they had almost forgotten was possible, waking up feeling genuinely rested, not groggy or as though they had spent the night in a battle with their own physiology, but simply refreshed and revitalized. Before I proceed further, I would like to pose a question to you, and I genuinely encourage you to share your response in the comments section below. At what time do you most frequently awaken during the night? Please type it in the designated area. Whether your wake-up time is 1, 2, or 3 in the morning, you will likely observe a recurring pattern of specific times appearing repeatedly in those comments. There is a tangible physiological reason for this, one that is directly linked to the circulatory cycles I have just explained, and it is certainly worth your consideration. If there is someone in your life, a spouse, a sibling, or a friend with whom you share Sunday breakfast, who has been lamenting years of disrupted sleep and has seemingly tried every conceivable remedy, this video is an ideal resource to share. Its value lies not in its complexity, but in its provision of a finally accurate and accessible explanation. My directive for you, commencing within the next hour, not tomorrow but tonight, is this. Locate an available wall, set a 3-minute timer on your mobile device, and perform this leg elevation. Exercise once before you retire for the night. This constitutes the entirety of your commitment for the first day. Should you wish to elevate this to a 30-day challenge, which I strongly advocate for, here is how it would be structured. 3 minutes each night, utilizing the same wall at approximately the same time and within 30 minutes of getting into bed. Maintain this practice consistently for 30 days. By the end of this 30-day period, if your circulatory system responds in the manner I have consistently observed in individuals similar to yourself, you will not be performing this exercise merely because you read about it or because a medical professional advised it. Instead, you will be doing so because you will have personally experienced the profound positive impact of a full night of deep sleep on your subsequent day, and you will be unwilling to revert to your former sleep patterns. If this video has provided you with insights that you had not previously encountered, I kindly ask that you subscribe to this channel. In the coming week, I will be addressing a topic that is directly and intimately connected to our discussion today. There exists a specific mineral, a deficiency in which is quietly prevalent among the majority of adults over the age of 60. This mineral's sole designated function within the body during the night is to facilitate the relaxation of your blood vessels and to calm your nervous system sufficiently to enable sustained deep sleep. It is a mineral that most individuals have never been tested for and one that most physicians seldom address. Furthermore, the food sources that are commonly believed to be rich in this mineral and are invariably listed on health-related websites are, in fact, the least bioavailable forms for individuals over 60. That video will be released next week and will pick up precisely where this one leaves off. It is highly advisable that you do not watch that subsequent video without first having viewed this one. I am Dr. Beckett, and I look forward to seeing you in the next presentation.